If there were a place in the world where you could store and protect the truth, it might be deep in the Rockies, in a field, on a ranch, in a silo, where an American patriot tells you what keeps him awake at night. Now, here is Medal of Honor recipient Drew Dix and words from the Silo.
Welcome, folks, to episode 7 of Words from the Silo. You know, you're gonna like this program because we're gonna go balls to the wall on this subject of pushback, and we got so much information from our last program of pushback in general, but that was pointed specifically to the Department of Defense. We're going to talk about that a little bit. It's keeping me up all night because if it keeps you up, it keeps me up. So, Brad, what do you think?
Well, I'm interested in our title, Balls to the Wall. What do you mean by that?
Well, I can see why you might think that might be a little offensive to some people, but balls to the wall has got nothing to do with males or anything.
Okay.
For you females out there, we're not picking on you. But balls to the wall was created about World War II in the Army Air Corps when they were these bombers. You know, if you picture the cockpit of a bomber, these multi-engine airplanes had a throttle that was vertical, and on top was a ball. So when you want to go forward and all get together, is balls to the wall, which is the panel of the aircraft. So
you're saying full speed ahead then today?
Full speed ahead. Let's do this.
Okay.
All right. Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm good with that.
I'm glad you asked me because I think you'd have been staying up all night.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't want to have to respond to all those emails we were going to get.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad you're going to sleep good on that.
I am.
But so one of the first things that become obvious to me after we did the episode on pushback from within, that the Department of Defense, with our military and the mission, the clearest mission of any department in the United States government is to go after the enemy, defend our country, go after the enemy, and kill them before they kill us. That's it. There's no other mission. It should be so clear to anyone that join the military or in the military that that's what you should be training for. But unfortunately, not just the last 3 or 4 years, but for the last, I'm going to say 20 or more years, maybe even longer than that, we've gradually softened the military. Ever since we didn't decide to have a volunteer military. It was forced on us when they discontinued the draft. So we got to have a military. So we're going to create the military to be a profession that would attract young people. So however long this has been happening, maybe since 73, gradually being a little softer. And I was part of that too, because I didn't retire till 82. But specifically, I can remember way back in the late 70s when I was assigned to a special operations unit that was stationed at MacDill Air Force Base. Now, we were just tenants there, and I remember this one time specifically where a group of us were out on the tarmac ready to board an airplane to go make a training parachute jump in Florida. And the Air Force had called an operational readiness inspection, ORI, and what that meant is testing everybody within the unit, the base. Didn't involve us because we weren't part of that unit, but we were tenants there. So we're sitting on the tarmac, and all of a sudden they announced this, and And I saw these two mechanics running towards aircraft, simulating to perform maintenance on it. Big, strong, burly guy carrying at least 100 and some pound toolbox. And he was, he was doing all right with it, but he was struggling a little bit. And this young female airman, mechanic, cruised right by him. But her toolbox was on wheels. And I'm thinking, that guy, all of us have carried a suitcase. It'd be easier to carry two. And he could have carried two easy, faster than he was carrying the one. Okay, so I just kind of registered in my brain, and then a week or so later, there was the base newspaper came out and said how great the ORI came out. The commander of the base was complimenting the members of the base, and he said, and the female did so much better. And he referenced this one circumstance that this young female got to the aircraft quicker. And I remember seeing that, watching it, and didn't register it at all until I saw that. And I said, wait a minute, why didn't they put wheels on both of them? And so it's upside down. They were catering to the female.
So looking back now, I mean, not knowing all the circumstances, I mean, so you believe that was the beginning of some of this softening of rules and regulations as applied to different people?
Well, I think that was the very beginning of complementing a gender that was new in the business. Let's face it, females were they always had women's Army Corps and nurses and things like that. And in World War II, the WASPs were flying airplanes and stuff. So they always had it, but now we're recruiting. So you gotta make them feel good, and so that's why I think it wasn't designed that way. It just happened. But so okay, that was a situation in 1977, long time ago, Brad.
Yeah,
might have been 78, but it's right in that time frame. And so that was the first sign of it. And I was the Air Force. Now, the Army at that time, I don't think, and I'm recalling now whether there were that many females in the military, certainly not in the combat arms where I was in. And that was a big issue for a long time. It was only recently that females were allowed into the last 5 combat arms specialties.
I on your story, do you think the man soldier or the guy soldier just lifted it off its wheels, didn't want to use the wheels? Maybe? No. You don't think so? So he had a. You're telling me he had something that had no wheels on.
They had designed this toolbox with a handle and everything.
Okay.
But when you think about it, for the efficiency's sake, you would have put wheels on all of them, right? Because
sure.
they've got to run out a long way on some of those air bases. I mean, we're talking could be half a mile out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a stretch, but that's where I first recognized this was happening. But I'll bring it a little bit forward now. So I was doing some training at the ranch for some special operators, and I'm going to tell you it was 2018-19. It was just before COVID, and we had a team to come to the ranch, a couple of teams, and there was a female captain. Well, it's no big deal. In fact, I do remember when I was arranging for this, and the non-commissioned officer that was organizing this training for his unit said, "We got one female coming. Is that going to be a problem?" And I said, "Well, no, not a problem with me. It's your military. I'm just doing the training, but I'm not going to make special accommodations." "Oh, no, you don't have to do that." So anyway, we hadn't thought much about it, but these, well, I guess it was 3 4-man teams, and one of them, there was a female, and she was a captain. I didn't think anything of it. So the first night, part of this, my training was, if we got into some real tactical discussions and getting out in the field and the ranch and doing stuff, but it was all about mentoring a little bit, sitting around the fire, and talking about having a couple of nips, good whiskey or something, just to socialize, and with my special operator, subject matter experts. And so I sat next to this young captain, and I asked her, I said, what's your source of commission? I'm interested, making conversation, and what do you mean by that? And I was taken back a little bit about it, because that's what your source of commission means, whether it's ROTC, OCS, West Point, or whatever. And she said, I said, well, I mean, you became a lieutenant. How did you do that? I'm now trying to get her to respond the way I would think. And she said, oh, you mean where I went to college? I said, that'd be a start. That's what I'm talking about. Well, I went to college at West Point. And I had a silence there, about like I am right now, and I'm thinking, West Point, I never heard it called a college. And she said, oh yeah, we do that now, so she said students instead of cadets feel better about where they went to college. And I said, feel better about where they went to college? I said, it's the best, quote, college education in the United States, arguably in the world, engineering and all that. Well, you just don't understand. I mean, we need to feel good about where we went to college. And I said, personally, Brad, I didn't know what to say. Because being an old soldier, and then when I was commissioned, we always looked at the West Pointers as a base mark. They were what was taught there. In fact, your commission dates are usually based on the year group of a West Point class, even if you didn't go to West Point. So I just got up and just went on, and I'm thinking, holy moly, I had to tell that to somebody. And I talked to a couple of the graduates of the academy, old soldiers, general officers, and I mentioned that, and they said, well, unfortunately, that's the mindset now. So that was, 6-7 years ago.
So, well, first of all, I got one question that's kind of, I guess, on point for West Point. What would Hank have said to that
gunfighter?
Response? Yeah, the gunfighter.
I can't say it right now on this YouTube, because we might have youngsters listening.
Yeah.
But he probably would have just pulled her off and did some counseling.
Okay.
I mean, like, what do you mean feel better about where they went to school? Do you remember how many people probably died serving their country, going to that college, you call it?
Yeah.
Young lady, you better get your ass together and give tribute to all those that went before you and after. That's what he would have said, something like that. And
so, why have we lost that no nonsense, frank talk? Even with the older ones that know. I mean, obviously, Hank's.
We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but here's the big issue that I'm bringing out with this. Now that she was a captain then, okay, and I'm not going to mention her name. Hope she's listening. But okay, she was a captain then. A few years ago, she's probably definitely a major, maybe even a lieutenant colonel. Who knows? So, with that mindset, and now in this leadership position, young soldiers, male or female, will be influenced by what she said. They think this is probably the way it is. That's the danger of this pushback. It's not intentional in some cases. Some cases it is. But the dangerous part in the military is this ethos. The warrior ethos has been changed to something different. I don't know what to call it, but they have softened it. That same individual, she's the only one that ever made a little bit of a critical statement about our course. Everybody just loved it. I mean, it was really good. And her comment, which I took as a compliment, was a little bit too tactical. Can you imagine a captain in the United States Army saying a course is a little too tactical? Who is that person influencing to this day? I don't care what their MOS is, military operational specialty, occupational specialty, MOS. You, just like in the Marine Corps, all of us need to be able to fight, right? Whether you're a clerk or whatever, or a truck driver, you got to be able to fight because that's the mission of the military. So they in her case, she may be in an occupational specialty that was not front lines, but it was behind the lines kind of thing. To think something is too tactical, and the whole purpose of our training was to be able to keep small teams alive so they can continue their mission. So that bothers me, and it has ever since that situation happened, that I'm wondering. And now, Brad, let me change. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. Recently, we've heard about two colonels, one Air Force and one Army, being relieved recently. One in Thule, Greenland, that kind of didn't support Vice President Vance when he was over there in Greenland, and she was relieved because you don't do that. You support the commander-in-chief and their mission. And the other was this Army colonel, both females now, in Wisconsin, that didn't have the photos of the commander-in-chief, the vice president, and the Secretary of Defense.
And that's protocol.
Absolutely, and a command board.
What was up? Just nothing?
Nothing. They didn't leave the previous commands.
Which makes it even
there.
more of a subject. They took down the old command
and didn't put up
the new ones.
Yeah, it's not acceptable. But so think about it. So in 2018, whenever that was, and maybe it's 17, we had a captain that had this, that went to college in West Point, and now we have 06s, colonels, in different services, not respecting the chain of command. In other words, thinking they individually had the prerogative or the right or whatever you want to call it to say or do whatever they wanted.
What happened in Greenland with the Thule incident?
Well, in the Greenland one, when Vice President Vance went over and spoke to the Greenlanders and probably some people on the base, I don't remember exactly, he talked about what they're doing and all that, and how important Greenland is to NATO and the defense, and suggested acquiring it and all that. And she, as a commander, base commander, put a article out about it that's not going to happen, or
Was it an email or an article to the?
I think it was an article.
To the whole.
Might have been I don't remember.
To the base, to the group.
But to everyone that might have listened to the vice president. So in other words, cutting the rug out from under them, so to speak. So it's unacceptable, because in the military, to be successful, you have to be in the same mission. You have to obey the orders of the officers over you. You just do. Now, there's such a thing as not having to obey an illegal order, and we all know what that is. It would be like ordering them to kill somebody that was a non-combatant or something. That's an illegal order. We're talking about a mission order, and that's a clear example of circumventing the mission. The one in Camp McCoy, Wisconsin, was more maybe insolence or something to not recognize the commander-in-chief.
Defiance?
Defiance is a better word, yeah. But can you imagine a military that thinks an individual has the right to, just because they have elevated to a rank that they've been entrusted to lead men and women in combat or training for combat, to have their own opinions and voice them that's contrary to our overall mission? It just doesn't work. And in order to have a successful military, all the members have to believe in the mission. We've never been a yes service. There's always been a way for a soldier to voice, in modern times, objection to something, but then you explain it. Yes, sir. They salute and go take care of the mission. So when I look at where we've gone in the last 30-some years, and gradually, and it amplified in the last 4, to recruit people to an occupation instead of a mindset, the warrior ethos, but just an occupation. We run the risk of being diluted. Because I've always said, if you recruit, now the reason why this is a problem, if we were just recruiting military and females and minorities joined, there's no problem, and they pass the same standards. There's absolutely no problem. But if you recruit any element, whether that's a gender specific, a minority specific, or a cultural issue, then that issue becomes more important than the overall mission of the military. That's the danger of this. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about it, these colonels, that's a significant rank in the military. That's just below general, right? And a colonel usually is in charge of 5,000 or 6,000 people, a brigade or whatever. It's a lot of people, a lot of soldiers. And if they don't sign on to what the overall mission is, you run the chance of diluting the strength of this unit. And let's face it, if you recruit people because of a gender, and then you recruit some because of a race, ethnicity, and some because of cultural interests, you're trying to accommodate everybody. And if you try to accommodate every special interest, soon you lose your mission. You don't stand for anything. If you try to stand for everybody, you don't stand for anything. And so here's where we are. We've got to figure out. Now, Secretary Hegseth and his team, and I've said this the last episode, I said, they say 99.9% of the programs are eliminated, DEI, and I believe that he believes that. But maybe he doesn't realize how deep this could be. Mm-hmm. If you recruit someone to go into a service academy, like the Air Force Academy just up the road, and they used to have DEI cadets out there that were the ones to kind of keeping their eyes on to see if there was violations of whatever. This is the way I understand it. And I think they even had some kind of a purple rope or cord to identify them. And so what kind of officer graduates with that, knowing that that's important? They're now graduated, and now they're in the trenches all throughout the military. And we've got to figure out how to get that back, eliminate that. There's already laws about discrimination. Okay, we enforce those laws, but not create new circumstances where they're not enforceable.
Yeah, that's extremely complicated. I mean, the 99.9% is them eliminating programs that maybe they've stopped the bleeding, so to speak, to with the programs, but what's already been infiltrated or people that are in these high-ranking positions, as you say. So then, how would you do it?
Well, I'm a bit radical on this, but I would start at the very top. There's roughly 900 or so flag officers, admirals and generals in our military, which is a lot. I would figure out a way, create a Doge commission or something, where you had a chance to put your eyes and hear every one of those 900 flag officers. Give them 2 minutes. Schedule it when you're a busy guy, right? Whatever, gal, whatever your job is, and you have this mission. Someone can arrange to have them intercept you when you're walking from point A to point B and give them 2 minutes to say what is the best thing, first thing that's on their mind, what keeps them up at night. Give them 2 minutes and just listen. By the time you were done with that 2 minutes, I think you would absolutely know pretty much where they're coming from.
And you think that if you did that, if that was even possible to do and execute, that then you could make some decisions by cutting from the top down.
Yeah. Now the danger of cutting from the top down is morale. You got to keep morale up, but that's not going to solve the whole problem, because we're already talking about some that were recruited just a few months ago to be in the academies and the colleges and the military under the last administration, under a quota type scenario, where fortunately recruitment was miserable under those things. So people don't really want it. But then what's the danger of that is a lot of people don't join. So the good ones aren't joining. The ones that are the danger now did join. And so the ratio is a little bit skewed. So now the recruitment has really come around. They're doing a good job. All the services, I think, is what I'm hearing. Way over expectation. We're getting some good people.
Is part of the recruiting strategy, I assume, have they sweetened the compensation packages to where people are like, oh, I'm going to go do that? It's the same. That hasn't changed?
No, in fact,
incentives?
Compensation I don't think is a big problem. Our military gets paid.
They get paid well?
I think so, and especially if just like in civilian life, you're not a private forever. You do a good job, and in 6 months or less, you're going to have it be 2 stripes and 3 stripes, and then it goes on up, and the pay goes commensurate with your responsibility. So they're doing okay. The senior ranks, colonels and the generals get paid, and their retirement is really a lot. So I don't think pay is a problem.
The incentive is to stay in and you climb.
So to get to your point, the recruitment is up because now the former military guys like me are recommending to their kids and their family, the military is a good place to be. There was a time that I wouldn't have recommended anybody to be in the military if they wanted to do what, to have that mission. And thankful there's enough people and young people in the U.S. that want to join for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. And that's what's making recruitment go up, not the incentive, the money.
And with, I don't know, what'd you say, we have 500,000 people in the military, and you're saying 1,000 generals? No,
we have just under 500,000 in the Army.
Oh, in the Army. Yeah, that's what you
said. Okay. And we have, somebody's going to say, no, we don't have 950, it's 920 or something, I don't know. But there's about 900, I think, maybe
right under a million.
And they're coming down, I hear. But in World War II, we had like 2,500, but we also had many millions of men and women in the military, mostly men. I think roughly 80 divisions. We don't have but 3 divisions now. A lot of brigades and stuff, but the strength is really down. So the end strength is down. And maybe we have enough. We sure have enough if we have the right ones. If we're a little bit understrength, and a lot of them is special interests and in the military for the wrong reason, we don't have enough. Right. In fact, they will be giving us a problem, because if we have to go to war, no one wants to go to war, but when I was in, a lot of the young guys were ready to go. I remember when we thought we were going to have to parachute in the Dominican Republic, everybody wanted to do that.
Yeah.
It was 1965. But hey, Ben. But if we don't have enough of the right people with that warrior ethos, then when we're trying to muster a division or a brigade or whatever, they're going to have a hard time filling the ranks, because there'll be people with every kind of reason there is not wanting to go. And we've given a lot of them a reason, like before. I think it's all over now, but this trans gender surgeries and treatment, the medications and stuff, they would be undeployable, period.
So even if they're counted in our ranks, they're not
deployable.
You can't use them.
Yeah.
They're already casualties.
Yeah, they're already. And, we're cleaning it up, but like I said, we can't put the rucksack down. We got to get the rucksack back on and still charge up the hill, balls to the wall, and get this thing fixed.
Tell me about this pushback on Hegseth, and I know he's been criticized recently, and maybe he did something wrong regarding sensitive military information being disclosed to family and friends that weren't people that should have had. What do you say to that, and you have any perspective on any of that?
Yeah, what I'm saying is we're getting some pushback. The first one where it came out, where they used the Signal platform, chat platform, to that was secure to plan some of the operation in Yemen, and that issue was there was a person on there that shouldn't have been on there, from the Atlantic magazine or news outlet. And so they got that information. Now, to this day, I don't know why that person, if they realized they shouldn't have got this, wouldn't have called the secretary's office and said, "Hey, this was sent to me by error. I'm not sending it out."
Is that what was said?
But he didn't do that.
But he said that the person was in there because of an error in the.
It was the person was in error from the Atlantic, and that's the un-American part of this thing. Sure, journalists are obligated to report what they know, but there's a time when then you probably shouldn't, and make the judgment and make that phone call. That Secretary of Defense would have been very grateful to him.
Yeah,
that's pretty stupid to put that out there, all the details of that operation that they got in error. Then the second one was supposedly. And I don't know if any of it's true or not. The secretary was on TV and he explained it, was saying that he shared with his wife and brother and some other folks some sensitive information. If he did, that's wrong, clearly wrong. I don't know that he did. Rest assured that the military and the Department of Defense is on it. Now, I don't know that he did it. Somebody might have brought an old issue and brought it forward again to push back against him, because it's all politics. It's all politics.
Well, that in the end, that's what the problem is, right? A lot of people hang on to their position maybe now and thinking, okay, if I hang on long enough, there'll be different politics come along, and then I can get back to operating on. So some of these people that are laying back and. Yeah. In the pushback are just trying to wait out different administrations, but that goes on forever.
Yeah, and we've got to eliminate this. Now, the current administration is using executive orders, making a lot of changes because there were need for a lot of changes, and one is to make the military apolitical. Just no question, it can't be political in any way, because that influences decisions that are made by military people for the defense of this country. And if anything in politics, and this DEI and this cultural issues is political.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely political. It's an agenda. And so the danger of what's happening now, what the president is doing now, eliminating these. Let's say there's a new president in 3.5 years or whatever, and they just undo it all and go back to the way it was. Right. That's a danger, and we just can't. We can't be doing this back and forth thing. We're going to make us like old South America, where the military just was in favor, was whoever was in the good graces of the leader.
Yeah,
that's how they made their generals and stuff.
Yeah.
No, we got to get this out of the military, and I don't know if anybody has the courage, a politician, to do that. It seems like every issue that is being voted on in Congress is straight down party line.
No doubt. Yeah, it's almost I'm getting worn out watching it. I don't watch it anymore that much because you don't know who's shooting you the right way, and then you got to watch 4 networks to figure out your opinion.
Yeah, I watch them all just to figure out if I'm hearing it right. And you know what? I don't have a TV. I got a TV at the house, but I just look on my phone or my iPad and
we got to put that big flat screen in the silo.
Yeah,
have a nice big monitor.
Yeah, we've got to dress this up a little bit more. But
let me ask you a couple questions about these books on the table. You know, we got The Rescue of River City, which is a book that detailed your Medal of Honor action. That if our listeners haven't ever read it, they should read it. I'm recommending it. That's how the first thing I read when I met you was that book, and it's still a great book to have. You can get it at the AmericanValueCenter.org on our website, and there's other ways you can get it. I'm sure there's some floating around on Amazon, but if you want a new copy, and if you write into the show, maybe Drew Dix will sign a copy for you. The other book we have is a book we published in the Center for American Values. That's the Medal of Honor quotes book.
Yeah, let me
tell us about that a little bit.
That quote book, Brad that quote book is one of our pride and joys at the center. In fact, it's really well done, and we built this book a few years ago when people were getting away from books. We're all going to digital type stuff. So we put a little extra money in creating this book because we think that people should have this on their desk or something they can give to their child that's graduating from some college or high school or some event. Because in there is a quotes of Medal of Honor recipients. Every one of them I knew. And they're very inspiring because they're coming from regular folks. And we designed this book, and if you put your hands on it, you know that it's some quality, and we didn't have to write it. We just built it.
Yeah, it was easy.
Someone else put these quotes in here. A little bit about the center, but you can help the center by purchasing this, and you can always contact us, and if you have a large order, don't hesitate to contact us because our mission is to get this out.
Well, like we had a donor about 6 months ago bought a bunch of these books and gave them out at a hockey game to every attendee at the hockey game. So we were able to move about 2,000 books. But all the proceeds from the book do not go to us personally or anything. They all go to the nonprofit, and our nonprofit is an educational public charity. So all the money goes straight into our programs, and we have some great programs. Go online, check out AmericanValueCenter.org. You can see our website and the products available there, but certainly drop us a note if you wanted to buy some in bulk. It's a big fundraiser for the nonprofit, this book, and we use the money to educate on our core values of honor, integrity, and patriotism. So,
well, Brad, that's a good point, and I'll throw the number out there. If you buy a lot of them, you can get them for about $6, and they easily sell for more, and it's a fundraiser for a nonprofit.
Yep.
And my book, all the proceeds go to the center. I was proud to put that book together. Little story behind that is in 1999, an outfit that I worked for, a little bit of work with the CIA when I detailed with them, Southeast Asia. One of their individuals called me and asked me if I'd write about our relationship in the military and the agency, because in my day, the fact that we worked together was kind of hush-hush, and it was becoming more obvious that there was more of a partnership between the military and the CIA and in some areas in the field. And so how do I know what I can say? Well, and then Jim Ward, who wrote the foreword in that book, he said, Drew, just say everything. But you can't have an editor, you can't have a publisher, you can't have a writer. You have to do it all. Send it to us. We'll let you know if you've gone too far on some things. And it came back, they didn't change one thing. And I thought I was spilling my guts.
Well, that's your training.
But anyway, I was proud to do that. Rescue of River City, some great folks in there. And it's almost, it explains the unit that I was in quite detail in telling the story. So I was proud to do it.
I think it's an important read for anyone that listens to this podcast, because then you get some insight into the man that's running the podcast now here. How many years later has this been? Almost over 50 years since your action.
Yeah, it's a long time.
So, I mean, that story, your Medal of Honor action soul, it's older than me. So, this is good insight, into how you think today and all your experience. So,
well, and the reason why we have opinions is how we're brought up. So just remember that tolerance is a character flaw.
Just because no one knows doesn't mean it isn't true.